everyone. Sam Shaw here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. I'm back today with another client interview for you guys. Today, I'm really excited to have Ruben on with us. Ruben is one of our students that we worked with over the last year, I guess, or geez, how long has it been? It's been a while. And yeah, actually, it's been exactly a year. I just
Yeah,
checked. And so, he was able to really successfully navigate through the recruiting process and um, just, get an amazing outcome despite the circumstances. And so I wanted to get him on here to talk to you guys about his experience and, hopefully just also share some insight along the way that will help you guys with your own recruiting process as well. So, Ruben, I want to, first of all, thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. And if you don't mind, just starting off by introducing yourself a little bit and telling people kind of who you are.
absolutely, absolutely, Sam. Thank you for inviting me over. It's my pleasure. Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Ruben. I'm originally from Russia. I'm going to USC Marshall here doing my master's. I'm graduating in about 2 months, which is in about 2 weeks, sorry, which is good. I'm excited about it. I would say, it was a long journey. I had previous experience in telecom, but then decided to come here to US and pivot into investment banking.
Mm. So, did you come to the U.S. specifically to break into investment banking? Then is that what you're saying, or?
Well, essentially, I came here to break into private equity, for starters. But
Yeah.
then, I came here not knowing what the recruiting cycles are. What does it look like?
Mm,
So when I came here, I was like, okay, the most realistic option, I need to break into investment banking, and then, I'll decide further on what's going to be next.
gotcha. So, like, you finished college back home, you worked there for a few years in the telecom industry, and then you came here. And so, like, when you came here, like the master's, you're doing master's in finance at USC. That was like basically when you came to the States. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, gotcha. So, so I guess like let's start with the outcome, I guess. So like first, let's tell people like where are you ending up, or where are you going to be starting work at in a few
yeah.
weeks?
Absolutely. I'm joining Drakestar Partners. It's a middle market boutique that the offices across US, Europe. We do all kind of deals connected to tech. It's tech only boutique. So it's fintech, media, whatever is connected to that. They usually, we do transactions anywhere from like 50 to 250 million.
Okay,
The deal flow is insane, so it's a lot of work. I really enjoyed my time there, so very excited to get back there.
that's awesome. And so if we go back to the beginning, then I don't know when you started like really working towards IB, or prepping for the recruiting process. Was that basically like as soon as you got to the States, or when did you actually start like seriously thinking about it?
So I would say it took me a couple of months. So I came to US in August 2021, and my program started around the end of August. So that's when I was started talking to people on campus, trying to figure out what does recruiting look like. Um, first place I went to was Career Center, and that was not helpful at all. To be honest, they just said, yeah, you just need to apply to some applications online. You just need to fill out some information. It's all we get. Trust us. I was like, okay. So that's exactly what I was doing until I heard about the program. So essentially, I would say, since October, my day to day was like go online, find job posting, file an application, fill it in, set it over, and then sitting and waiting, and then getting a rejection 5 months later or 3 months later.
Hmm.
So that was my initial cycle, I would say.
So that's an interesting point that you bring up. Because I was going to ask you like what kind of prep were you doing, or what kind of resources were you already using prior to Wall Street Mastermind? It sounds like it was just solely career center stuff, or like it was just solely relying on the career center at school, and nothing
Yep.
else. Like okay, um, and I guess that's like a very logical place for someone who's brand new to the scene, and like coming even from another country and still like trying to learn the ropes of how things work here. Is like common sense would say, yeah, just go to the school's career center. But when you say like it's not helpful at all, because I think this is an interesting point. Like a lot of times we talk to students, or sometimes students talk to their parents, and then their parents are like, you should just use the career center at school. Like we're already paying so much money for school, so why don't you just use that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to explain to them like what the difference is between what the career center can do for you versus like what a program like this could do for you. So like I guess maybe this question is related, but like you already had the career center, right?
Yeah.
What made you want to join Wall Street Mastermind? Um, and then also like I guess a follow-up question to that is just like, what did you do for recruiting prep after you joined Wall Street Mastermind? And how is that different from what you were already doing with the career center?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just like getting back to Career Center. They obviously told me that you have to network, you have to email people, chat to them. But coming from absolutely drastically different background, like it's not absolutely a culture where I come from. I was very anxious. I never did it. But I never had a coffee chat before I joined the Wall Street Mastermind.
Mm,
So essentially, what I would say drew me into the program is that I saw student successes. I'm a kind of person who likes to understand what I'm getting into, and the best way for me to understand it is to talk to somebody who already did it.
mm,
And I think I talked to one of your student successes. It was a girl. Her name is Celine. I think she went to
mm.
Goldman Sachs.
So yeah.
Um, And yeah, I just asked her all questions I had, to be honest. And that was a decision maker. Then I hopped on a call with you. I still remember it was about November. I was in San Francisco trip with my friends because we had Thanksgiving break. And that was the moment when I decided to make a change because obviously nothing that I had done before was working. So I had to, find additional help.
Got it. Okay. So basically, you felt like you had already tried with what you could from the advice that was given to you by the career center, and it wasn't going anywhere. And so you needed to make a change somehow. And then in terms of making a change, it sounds like I can't say this about everyone, but it sounds like you're a pretty decisive person. Like you kind of like look into it, you do your research, you talk to someone who has done it, and then if like it makes sense to you, then you're just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's that's an admirable quality, man. I would say like, most of the successful people that I know are very decisive. And then there are some people that really struggle with being decisive and they kind of like, go back and forth on every decision they make. And then like it kind of paralyzes them and they're like, oh, what if this, what if that? And they just don't make the decision. And by the time they actually do anything, it's like they've lost so much time, right? Or like this is usually when you're that indecisive, you just end up not doing anything. Is usually what happens, right? And so
Yeah.
it's good to see that you're the type of person that takes action and you just act on. I mean, you trust your gut and you just act on it. Because like the other thing I guess I would ask you too is like, I mean, when you were thinking about joining Wall Street, like, obviously you talked to Celine. Obviously, you asked her about her, own experience. Obviously, you knew she was going to Goldman Sachs, and that all helps. But like, were you skeptical at all, or I mean, like, did you see like any people out there that said like oh, this program's not going to work or whatever? And like, if so, like, how did you overcome that? Or like, I think you also have to obviously like most people, get your parents' support, right?
Mhm.
Or like, so if you weren't skeptical, like, were your parents skeptical, and how did you get them across the finish line, right?
Yeah. No, I'll be honest, like I was skeptical,
Yeah.
right? Because I still, yes, I had an opinion. Um, but essentially, like Celine gave me a very good overview. I was then the next thing you do, you go online and read online reviews. And then I went to Wall Street Oasis, and you probably know about it.
Yeah.
It's a very like interesting discussion out there. So
Yeah.
that produces more skepticism.
Yeah.
So I was anxious. The only like the next thing I was like, okay, no, those are people who never done it. I want to talk to Sam in person. Like I want to understand who is Sam, what's he doing, why should I join the program because of him?
Mm,
Because obviously one of the values that I saw is your experience of the coaches you bring to the program,
yeah.
so that you guys just know the industry inside out, right?
Yeah. Gotcha.
So that
Okay.
was that was my that was my thing, and my parents were even more skeptical because they were in a different country.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I get it. So it sounds like you heard both sides. You like obviously heard Celine's experience, which is positive. You saw kind of a lot of the critics online who are mostly saying negative things, but then you just kind of realize that, well, Celine's actually done the program, whereas the people that are saying bad things about the program have actually never done the program. And then so you just decide to like look into it further and kind of decide for yourself and not listen to either side just at face value, but kind of like do your own critical thinking, basically. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's totally fair, right? And I think like that's what I would encourage everybody to do is that unfortunately in this day and age, anybody can say anything they want. And the internet kind of amplifies that, right? We see it in politics all the time too. Is like there's two different parties, they all say opposite things, and then both sides says the other side is lying, and it's like you don't know who to believe, right? And so like in times like that, it's like extra important for you to like have critical thinking skills and be able to kind of sift through the noise and figure out for yourself like what's real and what's not real, right? Um,
Yep.
since we're on this topic, I mean the thing that I will say, I always remind people is like you have to ask yourself why these people are saying completely different things on both sides. Like that's weird, right? And for someone like Celine, who has already gotten into Goldman Sachs and has a job lined up at Goldman Sachs, um, they have a lot to lose by associating themselves with a program that is a scam, which is what people are saying, like what the critics are saying, right? Like
Yeah.
they could lose their job at Goldman Sachs by by helping to scam other people, which like no person in their right mind who has a job lined up at Goldman Sachs is going to do that, right? Because they have their entire bright future ahead of them. And on the other side, like for all the people that haven't done the program or decided they don't want to do the program or they don't want to pay for the program, it's like, well, they don't want other people to do the program because it makes it harder for them to get a job if they don't do the program and other people do the program. It's actually a good program. So like when you can't tell who's telling the truth, like a lot of times I think it helps to like think about people's motivations and why they would behave the way that they do. Right? Are there other
Absolutely.
hidden incentives that would explain such a drastic difference between the opinions on both sides? And like a lot of times once you think about things through that frame or that point of view, um, you can kind of figure out what's real and what's not. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
because everyone is like kind of like self-interested. Like everyone has their own best interests at heart, right? And so like that's just kind of like how humans are, right? And so like you can always start there, and then you can usually figure out what people are doing. And so anyway, not to belabor the point too much, you say your parents are even more skeptical than you are, though. And so like, how did you convince them to support you? I guess, or like give you their blessings for for doing this program.
So look, my parents are even more practical than I am. So whenever I try to, let's put it this way, whenever I try to close them for something, I need to explain what I'm getting from it, why it's worth what it's worth,
Hmm.
right? Essentially. So what I had to do is I basically had to sit down with my father for, I think it was for like half an hour, lay out to him what I was already doing, and it was not working. I tried everything I could, everything I knew, the best practice I could find, without without others help, right? And then I basically like introduced the program, told what's there, right? The technicals, the networking, the modules, and all that stuff. And he said, no, that makes sense, right? So if this is another culture, go and learn from people who were in the culture longer than you were, and learn from them. Learn from people who already did it. Learn
Hmm.
from others people mistakes. That was the thing, right? So that's kind of like what convinced my parents to agree with me and support me on that decision. But also like um just generally, they through my life I never disappointed them in my choices, so
Hmm.
that also played a good role in the sense that I always know what I'm doing and why I'm doing. So that was one of the reasons why they trusted me as well.
Yeah. Gotcha. Um. So I think like you bring up a couple good points there, which is the way you approach your parents in this conversation matters a lot, right? Like I feel like some students, a lot of like we talk to a lot of students and they want to work with us because they think like, oh wow, after talking to us, they're like, wow, this program is really amazing. It's got everything I need. Like no person in their right mind would not want this kind of help if they could have it. But a lot of times it's like, you need your parents' support. And some students will go to their parents and have very little conviction and ask their parents, like, hey, mom and dad, like, I found this program. Like, do you think you can help me with this? Or do you think I should do this? And it's like, your parents know nothing about this program. They know like way less than you do about the investment banking recruiting process and how it works. They know way less than you do about all the things you've already tried on your own and why it hasn't been working. They know way less than you do about like what this program even is because you hopped on a call and talked to us and they didn't. And so like if you don't have certainty and you're looking to them to give you that certainty, they're not going to have any certain, like if they see that you're not sure, then that tells them like for sure, this is not something you should be doing, right? But to the contrary, like, most of the students that end up in our program, they're like you, where when they go to their parents, they have conviction that this is the right program and they need it and that now is the right time. And then they don't just like ask their parents for a handout, but they like build a case, they present it in a coherent manner and they explain, here's all the things I've tried. Here's why it hasn't worked. Here's the solution. Here's why I think this is going to work this time. And like, here's how difficult it is to break into investment banking and so on and so forth. And like, if you explain all of those things in a convincing manner, like in my experience, what parent does not want their kids to do well? It's like all parents want their kids to do well. It's just a matter of like, did you do a good job? I mean, you said like closing your parents was like, yeah, did you do a good job? Like, pitching this to them and showing them the value proposition, right? And so I think that's a really, really good lesson. And then I think the other thing you mentioned that's really important too is that throughout your life, you've never disappointed them in your choices. And so that is like, that's huge because there's a level of trust between you and your parents, right? And I can't say that about everybody.
100%.
I can't say that about everybody because there are a lot of students out there that have probably made a lot of poor choices, along the way. And if there's not a lot of trust there or the parents don't trust your decision making ability, then you're going to have a much tougher time. Right. And so I think those are really, really great points. I guess like then you convince them, you came into Wall Street Mastermind. Um, People are probably wondering, like, so what did you do once you joined Wall Street Mastermind that was like, super different than what you were already doing on your own or what the career center? I mean, like, obviously, for one, you said you never did a coffee chat before joining Wall Street Mastermind, but like, can you go into more detail on like, just what's the difference? What's the difference between like this and anything else you could be doing on your own out there?
Well, first of all, when you start, the team takes your resume, takes your cover letters, works on them with you, and makes them look the best of the best, like 10 out of 10, which which is honestly here's the game changer. I honestly, like a month ago, I took my first resume that I wrote, that was help like I wrote it with the help of Career Center, and then I saw what was the result of the program. I was like, these are two different people, and that was a huge step as well, right? That's the first thing, and then jumping into the structure of interviews in investment banking, it's behavioral part and technical part, which is you start cranking out behavioral stories. You work with the team as well on how to best present yourself, which is one of the most crucial points in the interview process when you need to present yourself as a confident man, as a confident person, and moreover not only confident but also the person who had right experiences. So that's huge as well. That was insane help on that front. Technical modules, I would say, were like it was a very coherent, simple way of explaining things. I personally like to learn like the simpler the concept is explained, the better I understand it. This
Mm,
is how I explain concept to somebody else, like their 5-year-old uh kid, so that everybody can understand it, no
yeah.
matter what your background is. Because as we know, banking is you don't need to have a finance major to go into banking. You can be like liberal arts students and you still can break into that. So that was a huge benefit as well. But the game changer for me was a networking module where there was an analysis of the calls. You explain what the process is, how to approach it, where to start, where to go, and basically like you and the team is always here, like each step. Whenever I had a question or I was not confident, what should I do, what should I respond to people, and how I should do that. You guys were always here to help me on that. So that was an insane value add, I would say. So I don't know, like if people think that you can do everything on your own. Well, I don't know. You don't have multiple years of experiences in banking. You never worked there. There are people who know better what to do. So that's my personal opinion.
Mhm.
And overall, I think I named more than enough probably reasons to show that the process that I got into after joining the program was very intense, very coherent, and I would say created a complete picture, like turned me into a really good candidate compared to what I was before joining.
Yeah. I mean, like for you, because also, I mean, I think what people have to understand is you joined this time last year, so that was like November, right?
Yeah,
And you're in a master's degree, so you were basically like you were effectively a like 1 year away from graduating, and then you only had about you had 1 summer left in school,
yep,
and that summer was only like 6 months away. So like
yep,
the equivalent of that for most people who are thinking about this is like starting the recruiting process as a like when you're halfway through your junior year in college is kind of like the equivalent of this, right? Like you're 6 months away from your junior summer internship, right? Which is usually halfway through your junior year. And so like to be halfway through your junior year and then, as an international student who's like, trying to break into banking, like it's very late in the process, right? And
yeah,
it's very difficult to do, right? And so that was also the other thing that you're going up against, right? Is like starting late, but there's nothing you can do. Like you had only been in the States for like a few months at that time, and so it's like you couldn't have started any earlier, to be honest, right?
yeah,
And so like, to your point about people saying, hey, like, you know, um, I can do it all on my own and whatever. Like, I'm not saying no one can do it on their own. Like some people they are able to do it on their own. But for a lot of people, for the majority of the people who try and do it on their own, the reality is like, given how selective banking is, they don't, more people fail than succeed. That's just like the nature of the game, right? Because it's selective.
yep,
The majority of people who try on their own do not get in, right? And also, like, the majority of the people who have to recruit for banking, usually by the time they realize they want to recruit for banking, because the recruiting process is so accelerated, it starts so early. More often than not, people feel like they're behind. They don't feel like, oh, I'm still ahead. I'm still early. I have so much time, right? Like, if you have so much time, hey, by all means, like, try on your own, make mistakes, like, see if it works out or not. And then, like, if it's not working out, come back, right? But, like, if you are already kind of late in the process, like, you don't have time to do a bunch of trial and error and make a bunch of mistakes. Like, before you know it, like, all the firms are done recruiting and then, like, you have no options left, right? So
yep,
I think that's also like something to keep in mind is like usually more often than not when it comes to investment banking and recruiting, time is of the essence. There is a level of urgency that's involved. And so it's not just about like, can you do it on your own or not? It's like, how much time do you have to do it on your own? And if the answer is like, it's not that much time, then you need to figure out a way to just like do this in the most efficient manner possible. Right. In fact, you should try to do it in the most efficient manner possible anyway, because even if you have a lot of time, like it's still very competitive. And typically, like the sooner you can be ready, the earlier on the process you're ready, like the better the offer you're going to get, because that's when like all the firms are still recruiting, and then like the later in the process it goes, more and more firms have filled up, and then you have fewer and fewer good options, and then like you're moving further and further downstream, right? And so that has an impact on how good of a result you can get in the end as well, right?
yeah.
um I do have like one other question that I want to ask you that I just thought of, which I don't typically ask people, but I mean, I typically ask people like, hey, what's one piece of advice that you have for people who are recruiting right now? But I think I want to like kind of ask you a slightly different version of that because of your situation. Because I think what most people, what we haven't told people too, also is that so then you got this summer internship at Drake Star, and originally when you went there, the agreement was that they'll let you intern there for the summer, but they don't typically take full time analysts from their summer class, right?
Yep.
So like that's a bit different than a lot of firms. A lot of firms they take summer interns to try to see if they like them, and if they like them, they'll give them full time offers to come back. I think at the time, like you were willing to do that just to like get your foot in the door and get some experience, and then your plan was to recruit again for full time because, or
Yeah.
like that was the expectation that you would have to do that. But then at the end of your summer, they made an exception and decided to. You're the first person to ever get a full time offer from them from their summer intern class. Is that right?
Well, I'm actually the second. So there was a case in New York this summer, and
Mm,
there was a case in LA this summer. So
okay.
the situations are a bit different. The New York case was worked out because the guy already graduated.
Yeah.
So he was ready to start full on like during the summer. So essentially, like he spent a month and a half
Yeah.
as an intern, and then they hired him full time.
Yeah.
For me, it was yeah, I had like half year, across from my graduation date. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was a bit of a different case. But yeah,
Got it.
essentially,
So there's a guy in New York. You're the guy in LA. He was able to do an immediate start at the end of the summer, whereas like you had to go back to school and come back. So your thing is like the more normal arrangement with summer interns, which is like usually summer interns have to go back to school and then come back for full time.
yep,
The question I was going to ask you in terms of like giving some advice is, sorry, my dog is barking. Someone's at the door.
no
Um,
problem.
but the advice I want to ask you is like, what do you think it is that you did over the summer that made them make this exception for you, make them kind of break precedence? Because getting the summer internship is really just the first step. Like for a lot of people, even, like there's so much focus on getting the internship, but then like you can go to the summer internship and then you can like not get the return offer.
Yeah,
Right? Especially in this year's market environment, it was very tough because the stock market's been going down pretty much the entire year. The deal flow has been slowing down as well. Maybe not at Drake Star. It sounds like you guys still have pretty insane deal flow, but like it's been a tough market, and for full time recruiting, like there were a lot of places that weren't hiring at all, right? And then like
yeah.
the offer rate this summer was also a lot lower across the board. And so I think like what would be valuable for people is like obviously you must have done something right for them to say, hey, we really like Ruben, want to keep him around. What do you think it is? Or like what sets you apart from maybe other interns that they typically had and then they just didn't bring them back?
So yeah, I would say, that all came from my dad. Honestly, like I talked to him on that, how to perform well. He's an executive in the telecom company, and he hires a lot of people. He promotes a lot of people. So obviously, he knows, what to look for. Essentially, what he told me, and I want this to be more educational for people who are watching it. When you're going into the new place and you want to stay there, you need to do three things. You need to differentiate yourself, either by outperforming or having essentially like better skill set once you come in than everybody else. You need to listen to what people tell you inside the company, listen to their advice, listen to what they want, basically like take all of their advice and turn that into better deliverables or better understanding of the material, better understanding of the industry. Learn from people that you are working with and listen to them. And the third advice that I got was uh, what you have to do is you have to go above and beyond during the time you're there, essentially not only by performing well in the tasks you were given, but what I was doing, I was asking for more tasks. I saw a different project, I read up on that. I was like, okay, now I understand the business model. I'll go in, talk to my supervisor, uh, show him that I know what I want to do there. If there is something I can help with, I'll do it, right? So that is what I was doing as well. So yeah, I think this three things was the game changer for me, and I think a lot of people who got their return offers probably will find something similar to what they did. I feel like one of the people I know from my class who got return offered at another bank as well. Pretty similar things. He outperformed. He listened to what they were telling him to do and to their like kind of advice how to improve. And finally, he was just going above and beyond. Like if there was some other project coming in, he was like, I want to work on that. I want to work on that. Did we get enough sleep during the summer? Probably not, but the result is there.
Right. That's wow. That is really, really good, by the way. Your dad obviously you can tell he's been around for a long time and knows what he's talking about. But I think like your example of going above and beyond, that's like very clear, right? Like, hey, seeing someone else's project, seeing someone else's staffing, and then going and proactively reading up on it, and then going in and asking and volunteering to help out on it when you didn't have to do that. That's not something that most people would do. And I feel like a lot of people in banking, even is like, oh, I already have so much work. And then they're trying to like dodge additional staffings, right? Versus like go and ask for more staffings and saying, oh yeah, I'll stay later and I'll sleep less. And so that part is like very easily understandable, I think, just from listening to you talk about it. Um, on that first point about like differentiating yourself by outperforming, right? Or I think you said like coming in with better skill set. Like, can you give like a specific example of like what that looks like, for example? Like, is that just like, hey, before you came into the internship, you already learned how to build all the financial models? Or is it like, I mean, like what are you kind of talking about there?
Okay, so yeah, obviously. So I was talking primarily about technical skills. So essentially like Excel, PowerPoint, and just genuine understanding what you're working with. So what differentiated me personally a lot, and I believe like a lot of people would be differentiated as well, if they already had an experience working with CapIQ or PitchBook, like two most oftenly used databases, how to fast find things, how to download the data, how to like make some summary so that like whatever is needed, you're ready to deliver it pretty quickly, right? So that was first thing. Second thing is I would say financial model building in Excel, more of like understanding the basic things like outline, how to do it, what does it look like, some basic things that you should know how to do. And like your course on PowerPoint that you launched pretty recently
Yeah.
actually helped me a lot with PowerPoint things. Like all the shortcuts that were provided, I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, logo aligning, boom, done. Like creating a slide that the team done, easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was pretty quickly, and the team was like, how this guy knows how to do it, even though we didn't even train him
Mm,
how to do it, right? So it doesn't matter if you have a list of paper that everything in front of you and you read it and then you do it. Doesn't matter unless you outperform and perform better than everybody else.
yeah.
And it's essentially, I would say, it can be shown in time and quality. So if you spend less time with a good quality, they'll be happy about it. If they have some minor edits, go and do it, and you'll be fine, right? So yeah, I would just for everybody who is out there going into their summer or going into their winter internship, the must thing to do is actually go to Excel. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need to build financial model from scratch. Work with some data, learn basic formulas. It'll be a lifesaver, honestly. A life and a time saver,
Yeah.
which is most important.
Yeah.
And especially like PowerPoint, I don't know, if you have a chance to somehow lay your hands on Sam's course on PowerPoint, do that. That was, I would say, the most helpful for me with PowerPoint ever that I
Yeah.
saw in my life.
Yeah. That's funny. Unfortunately, we don't offer that to the public, at least not yet. So right now, it's like only people who are in Wall Street Mastermind can get their hands on it. But maybe that'll change in the future. However, I think regardless, the point is like being able to like practicing and developing the skill sets that you're going to need on the job prior to getting to the job, so that you can do things more efficiently. Because efficiency is like almost always one of the most important things in investment banking, right? So you're doing things faster. Um, and then that actually like also probably ties into the third point that you talked about, which is like going above and beyond. Like if you're really slow at doing stuff, you're probably not going to be able to go above and beyond. Like you're like, then you're just barely trying to, keep your head above water and not drown, right? It's just like trying to not be late with your deliverables. But like if you're really efficient, you're really good at Excel, you're really good at PowerPoint. And by the way, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Like a lot of people start practicing financial modeling, whatever, before they even get the job. It's like, no, like don't do that. Like you're not going to get asked to like build financial models during your interviews. You got to get the job first. But once you've gotten the jobs, then start practicing the things that you're going to need on the job, right? But get the job first. But like, if you can be efficient at the things that you need to do and you're finishing all your tasks early and without mistakes, then like you can actually go and take on more work because you have more bandwidth. And also like if your work is mistake free or close to being mistake free, then your team's going to trust you more and be more willing to give you extra work when you ask for it, right? Versus if your work quality is poor and you try to go take on more work, like it's probably not going to work because people are like, nah, no thanks, right? Like you touching my stuff, I'm just gonna have to spend even more time checking it. Then like nobody wants that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's amazing, man. I mean, because yeah, I just remember like when you told me like, yeah, like I got a return offer. They don't typically give them. I was like so amazed by that because um we've worked with a lot of students, and even after working with hundreds of students, like that's not the type of story that you hear every day. Like most of the time, like people, if firms don't hire, if firms don't give return offers, they just don't give return offers, right? And so I've been wanting to ask you that question for a long time, which is like, hey man, what's the secret? How did you do it? How did you make that happen? And I'm glad we were able to just shed some light on that today. So um, anyway, guys, if you're still with us today, um, if you're in a similar situation where maybe you are starting the recruiting process late, or maybe like you've been relying on the resources that you already have, maybe you've been like using the career center at school, or some club you're in or whatever, and it just hasn't been working that well for you, and that time is of the essence, and you're sick and tired of like doing the trial and error and having it not work out and having to start over, and you just want to like start making forward progress and start getting closer to your goals, then I want to encourage you to reach out to us and just have a chat. Like, same thing that Ruben did. You can first have a chat with someone else who's already gone through the program, who's already going to go work at a top firm. You can talk to a real person, ask them whatever questions you want about their experience so that you can decide for yourself, like, hey, is this legitimate or not? And if you decide, like, hey, this is legit and I'm interested, then as the next step, whichever alum of our program you speak to can help you connect with us and set you up for a follow-up call. But like, if you talk to us and you're like, oh no, this is not for me, that's okay too. Then like, just treat it as any other coffee chat that you do for networking, and like ask for some, free recruiting advice, and then like go out and do whatever you want to do on your own. Like we're not for everyone. We can't help everyone either. But if that's what you want to do, if you want to book the free virtual coffee chat with one of our alumni, you can go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The abbreviated, the street in the URL is abbreviated to ST. So it's wall, ST, mastermind.com/apply. And, we look forward to helping you any way that we can. All right. So with that said, Ruben, I want to thank you for taking all this time to talk to us today and to share your experiences with us. And I've been looking forward to this interview for a while, and I'm glad we finally got to do it. And I'm really excited for you. And I know you're starting your new job in a few weeks. So, best of luck with that. And I'm sure, with how well you performed over the summer, they're probably excited to have you start as well. And I'm sure you'll do great things there. So,
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Appreciate you. I'm very excited to start, and thank you for everything, man. Really, that was an amazing experience. Thank you so much for all the help you got. You got me.
yeah, man. I mean, look, you did all the heavy lifting, and we just gave you a little bit of a push. So I think you deserve most of the credit. But yeah, we're honored to have been a part of it, and thank you for giving us the opportunity. So
Thank you.
that'll be it today, guys. We're gonna stop here and wrap things up. We'll be back with more of these for you guys in the near future, with more client interviews. But until next time, we'll talk to you soon. All right.